Well, hey, what's going on, friends? Welcome to Chatterbox Reds Live. How we doing? Craig, what's up, bud?
How we doing? Happy Tuesday.
Good.
Hope you had a great day.
I had a great day.
Good.
How about you, Craig? Did you have a nice day today?
It was busy, man. Real busy. Lots of stuff going on, but hey, better than the alternative, I think. So we'll take it.
All right. Well, we're down to 2 outs here on the top of the ninth. Reds trailing by a couple here.
Just for you, Elliot. Just for you. Well, on the positive side, Nick, there's lots of other things to talk about other than this brutal game. So hopefully the show
I'm spending an hour talking about the masterclass of Luke Maley. I don't know what you're talking about tonight. But I mean,
yep.
What a performance.
Hey, shout out. Elliot's just glad because he didn't have to do any push-ups for the last 3 innings. So thankfully the bullpen came in and gave him a little rest. He was getting up there with his push-ups for social media. I don't know if everybody watching saw that, but every run Elliot was doing 25 push-ups, and it was looking rough there for him. So shout out to Elliot and sticking to it. He posted a video of him actually doing push-ups after one of the runs. So, he did do it. So
I imagine Elliot's a very big Luke Maley fan and Jacob Junis. I mean,
absolutely. How could you not be? After a night like tonight, how could you not be?
It's a romantic game, Craig.
Yeah. Michael doing well. Hope you're doing well as well. Thanks for the shout out. You're probably way ahead of me, so whenever this game's over, just let me know. We can just.
I'm sure you don't want to, really try to sync this up in case something big happens.
Should we? Go ahead and pause your TV for about 20 seconds, and we might be
Good take, Jonathan. Good take. Don't ever give away in that bat.
Do we know what concert Trace is at tonight?
I think it's Imagine Dragons.
Oh, right, okay.
Comeback thwarted. All right. Well, let's do a show. All 162.
I had hope. Let's do it.
High drive, left center field, racing back to the line, Bourgeois. The Reds are National League Central Division champions. In the air, left center field. Did he? He did! Reds win! Line to right field. Genius, the first run ever. With 4 home runs in a game. Can you believe it? In the air, down the right field line. Does it have a chance? The Reds have won on a 3-run home run on opening day by Ramon Hernandez. A strike away and out away is Homer Bailey. Ground ball to third. Frazier gloves. Throw to first, and Homer Bailey, for the second time in his major league career, has tossed a no-hitter. Oh, gosh. Are you kidding me? Holy Moses, the second player in major league history to hit 7 home runs in the first 10 games. In the air, and the Reds win. What a dream beginning to a career of Jay Bruce.
All right. Well, hey, what's going on? Welcome to Chatterbox Reds. Nick Kirby, joined by my guy Craig Sandlin as we recap a tough one for the Reds. Reds fall. What the hell was the final score? 10-3?
10-3.
10-3. Yeah. They lost. One One of those nights, Craig.
It was one of those nights. Look, it feels bad to admit this, but of late, when the Reds get down early, and obviously tonight was a different beast, but like you've talked about it before. Last year, when the Reds got down, I was like, all right, they're going to find their way back into it. It'll be fine. This is what we want. This year, it feels like a complete opposite. We down 1 or 2 runs early on, and I'm just tuning out. Like, it feels bad to say, but there's so little hope. And on a night like tonight where Carson Spiers just absolutely did not have it, I'm going to be honest with you, Nick. May or may not have been hoping to hear that Trace wasn't going to that concert. So, but we do all 162. I'm a man of the people. I'm a man of Nick Kirby. And so here we are.
Yeah, I mentioned it last night, but last year the Reds had 48 comeback wins. Yesterday the Reds actually had a comeback win, which is just their 21st of the season. And obviously some of the really poor starting pitching factored into that last year. The good starting pitching factored in a positive way this year to where you weren't down as much early, but it definitely does feel like when this team gets down a couple runs, it's unlikely that they're going to come back. But we'll get through it. Plenty of stuff to talk about. We're not going to talk a lot about this game tonight unless someone really is dying for us to talk about it. There is some interesting topics to discuss, including Jeimer Candelario going on the IL, some promotions down in the Reds minor league, and I'm going to have Craig tell you about something else coming up here on the Chatterbox sports platforms. Tease that right now. But as always, let's do a box score recap. And where's my box score recap? All right, Reds taking on the Toronto Blue Jays. Game 2 of 3 in lovely Toronto, Canada. Carson Spiers against Jose Barrios. In the bottom of the first, Carson Spiers struck out George Springer, but then Dalton Varsho crushed the ball to center field. It was deflected off of TJ Friedel's glove for a triple. It was a tough play, but one that you would probably expect TJ to make. Spiers was unable to get the dangerous Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to ground out, and with the infield in, the runner was held at third. But the next batter, Will Wagner, singled home the game's first run. At the top of the second, Reds got that run right back. Ty France and Jake Fraley walked, and then Noelvi Marte singled home the tying run. But then things all went downhill from there. Carson Spiers gave up 13 hits, 10 runs, 9 of them earned, and he gave up 5 homers. Reds lose 10-3. You really thought I was going to go through this whole game. You're wrong. I wrote notes for the first 2 innings, and that's where we're going to stop. So, yeah, tough one for the Reds today. We do have a DSC Deep Drive of the Day. As about 30 minutes ago, there was only one player in the entire Reds minor league system that homered. Jacet Martinez for the DSL Rojos in the final game of the year. He homered today. What a big homer. Increased their win probability up to 84.9%. Gave them a 3-2 lead in the 8th. What a big moment down in the Dominican Summer League. Final day of the year, as mentioned. And as always, our Deep Drive of the Day sponsored by Deep South Commodities. DSC is a leader in renewable commodities for biofuel production, specializing in used cooking oil collection, aggregation, and sales. Visit www.deepsouthcommodities.com for more information. Thanks as always to our friends at DSC. All right, well, we start with Carson Spiers. I don't know. Craig, is the honeymoon over? Just an ugly effort tonight.
Yeah, I mean, that's putting it nicely. I think here's the thing with Carson Spiers, and they talked about it on the broadcast, is that he doesn't have good enough stuff to not have location. And tonight he did not have location at all. He gave up the 4 home runs. I went back and charted all 4 home runs. All 4 of them were in the middle third height-wise, thigh-high pitches to all 4 batters. I'll give him a little credit because at least 2 of them weren't right down the pipe, but 2 of them were literally middle pitches. And when you're throwing 90 to 92 miles an hour on the high end, it's just not going to get it done. There are so many major leaguers that are going to take that ball yard every single time. And quite frankly, the Reds got lucky that the Blue Jays didn't have even more home runs because there were more pitches that were absolutely crushed by Blue Jay hitters that just didn't have the exit angle to get out of the ballpark. But middle sweeper to Springer in the second, middle in sweeper to Kirk in the third, middle out change up to Horwitz in the third, middle sinker to Jimenez. Like, it's just not going to get it done. And whether that's because he's tired and he's not finishing his pitches the way he should, or he's just not locating it for some other reason, I don't know. But if he's going to be in your rotation, he's got to figure out the location piece, because his stuff is not good enough to be throwing middle sweepers. That's for sure.
It was a really strange start for him early in this game, because the bottom of the first gives up that tough triple. I mean, the ball was absolutely demolished by Dalton Varsho, but Friedel probably should have caught it. Makes some really good pitches to Vladimir Guerrero Jr., pitches him tough. I mean, these were pitches right on the edge of the strike zone, gets him to roll over for a ground out, and then gives him a single to score the first run. Then it was deja vu in the second inning. A triple with one out, struck out the next batter again, made some really good pitches. The pitches were right on the bottom of the zone, and then just hung pitch after pitch after pitch after pitch after that. So
it's just consistency. I mean, you have to be able to do it over and over and over. And there's a reason that, Greg Maddux is the Hall of Famer that he is that he could do it over and over and over again. And today's day and age, when MLB is talking about, how do we figure out ways to lower velocity out of starting pitchers, and how do we figure out this and that to try and avoid injuries and increase offense? Well, there's one way to increase offense, is throw a guy out there throwing 92 miles an hour, middle. So it's interesting. He's got to be able to do it consistently. And to your point, he did make some decent pitches today. I also thought he made some decent pitches that didn't go his way still. That was okay early on. But then, and it's difficult, especially if you're a young player in this league. You get beat around, you give up a run in every inning for the first 5 innings. Certainly it's hard to stay focused in that situation and stay on the grind. But at the end of the day, that's his job. And so, I thought at the end of the day, pretty early on, it was evident that he didn't have his good location, at least consistently. And so, it started pretty quickly with that triple from Varsho that was hit deep. And I'm not sure your opinion on it. I thought it was interesting to give a triple on that ball. I did think it could have gone the other way. I'm not sure if it glanced off Friedel's glove or not, but nonetheless, an interesting scoring decision, which I think Chris Welsh mentioned on the broadcast that there have been a couple already in this 2-game series here in Toronto. So, but it just, too many base runners. Luckily, not a lot by free passes, but just hard hit balls left and right. And when you look at the StatCast in the end of the game, they were smoking balls left and right off of him. And the one that was the hardest hit wasn't a home run. Like I mentioned, Vladdy's single in the fourth, 113.5. And that was kind of the storyline of the game. It's just Carson Spiers not being able to locate.
Yeah, 14 hard hit balls. That's tough. That's tough.
Doing 4 1/3. That's tough to do.
Yeah. Not sure I've seen that many fire emojis on that short of an outing. On the scoring decision, I don't think you could score that in air, but that's why I don't put any stock in fielding percentage. I think it's a stupid, completely useless stat. That's why we have stuff like outs above average. That'll be a slight negative on TJ Friedel, which will, not make a big difference to him, but that should be a slight negative play. It's not an error, but it's not a positive play. That's why we have better stats than that. Last thing on Spiers, I mean, I would say is this felt very reminiscent of Ben Lively last year at Wrigley Field. Felt like the exact same type of situation where it just fell apart early. And I'll get your thoughts on this in a second. And David Bell just like, look, you're not going to win this game. We got to eat some innings. We're on the road all week. And just had to wear it. The most positive thing for Carson Spiers, who I think kind of is, there's a good comp with him and Ben Lively. Like, they're very similar pitchers. Is Ben Lively right now has a 3.68 ERA for the first place Cleveland Guardians that has been in their rotation. So look, you have a bad day like this. It doesn't mean that's at all how your career is going to go. Certainly not a good start and not a good sign, but He'll get you. I think he deserves absolutely to have chances again, whether it's a starter, whether it's a bulk pitcher. I think there's still plenty of innings to go around for the Reds and the type of role that he can provide the Reds. But yeah, what did you think about David Bell? I mean, yesterday with pulling Aguiar early, which I thought was absolutely the right decision because you had a lead and you're trying to make sure you get that first win in Toronto. You already kind of went for it the day before. You're on the road all week. Yeah, you can't burn through the bullpen in a game that you had no chance of winning.
Well, I don't. So the thing about it was it was so fast, right? Like it wasn't even a thing where, he had given up some hits here and there, and you had kind of seen signs of maybe this wasn't his day, but he was battling through. Like there was no chance for David Bell to even react because things were happening so quickly. I mean, by the time you got through the second inning, you're already down 4-0 at that point. It felt like it lost cause. And I think I tweeted it out pretty soon after that where, oh boy, here we go with another Carson Spiers eat some innings as a starter just to save the bullpen. And it happened the last time he started as well when we faced Milwaukee on the 9th. That was his last start. And he allowed in that outing a career high 8 runs on 7 hits on 5 innings. But that was an outing where, again, if you feel like you have a chance, you're taking him out much earlier. He threw 108 pitches in that 5-inning outing against Milwaukee. And then he comes back out tonight and in 4 1/3 ends up throwing 85 pitches. It's just, it's not good enough. And I think ultimately David Bell, I'm not really sure what you would expect him to do. Are you going to pull him after the first inning when he gives up that hard hit triple and then the single to Wagner? Are you going to pull him in the second inning? I mean, again, you don't necessarily know that it's going to go downhill so fast. Springer gives up that home run, but then he turns around and gets Varsho to ground out on that great play from Santiago Espinal. Let's not overlook that play. Espinal had a couple really nice plays tonight, so let's give him a shout out as we talk about Carson Spiers. It could have been even worse if Santiago Espinal hadn't made those plays. So look, I think ultimately the problem is that your starting pitching has gone from the strength of this team to now something that you're a little bit concerned about because you've got Hunter Green on the IL. You've got Nick Lodolo, who struggled over many of his last starts. Carson Spiers obviously struggling, and maybe you have to move to a position where he's got an opener. And maybe it is similar to a Nick Martinez situation early on in the season where he just performs better in that bulk reliever role. I don't know, but it doesn't feel like, Andrew Abbott going up and down. Nick Martinez right now, you don't know what you're going to get. You've got 2 really good outings out of him the last couple of times he's been out, but history would tell you that at the beginning of the year, it was not that way. So you don't know, is that going to be sustainable? So you've gone from your starting pitching being the strength to now being a question mark, and your bullpen, unfortunately, is going to take the brunt of that hit. And David Bell's got to figure out in which opportunities are worth burning your bullpen on and which ones are not. Tonight very clearly felt like it wasn't, based on how quickly it fell apart for Carson Spiers.
Yeah, the only positive with the bullpen is that they have guys that they can ship back and forth so that they can kind of manipulate it a little bit. But tonight's not a game I feel like you should waste shipping someone back and forth. Like, save that for when you have a real chance to win. So, yeah, I think this was pretty straightforward tonight.
Well, and to that point, I mean, they went to Luke Maile in the 7th inning. Like, clearly they didn't want to burn the bullpen more than they had to. Jacob Junis, shout out to him, came in, retired 5 straight.
On 13 pitches.
On 13 pitches. Really nice outing out of him. He's been a nice little addition to the bullpen, especially with Nick Martinez moving to the starting rotation, being able to come in and get some bulk outings. I know that his first outing was rough, but since then he's looked really good. So, shout out to him, and shout out to Luke Maile for getting 6 straight outs as well to end the game. So, 10-3 ball game. If I would have told you that our starting pitcher was going to go 4 1/3 and that we were going to have a catcher pitching in the 7th and 8th, and I told you we were going to lose by 7 runs, I think you would have been surprised by that. So, I think long story short, David Bell and this front office have some decisions to make on what the starting rotation looks like. I don't see a world today where you can afford for Carson Spiers not to be part of the major league roster and the plans there. I don't know what it's going to look like, whether that's in the rotation or as a bulk reliever or just out of the bullpen altogether. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you should probably, for sure, at least use an opener for him, at least till you maybe get his confidence back up or whatever. But we'll talk a little bit at the end of the show. There is some encouraging stuff maybe coming in terms of starting pitching, so there might be some opportunities there. But at this present time, I think you have to keep Spiers on this roster. Speaking of Luke Maile, how about 2 shutout innings? Luke Maile this year has thrown 3 shutout innings. Just incredible. He's now gone 10 1/3 innings in his career, and he's not walked a single batter. Like, that's incredible to me. So shout out to Luke. You can just go up there and throw strikes. I heard like my guy Chris Wells chuck on the broadcast how serious Luke Maile takes it. And I'm like, you know what? Like, I want them to be joking around about it. Like, come on, man. It's a long season. Have some fun. I'm sure there's some people in baseball circles that respect that and whatnot. I want them to have fun with it. Like, come on, man. You're getting your brains beat in. Have some fun. Live a little. I mean, I don't know, but I'm sure there's some people that were very thrilled with how serious Luke Maile took it.
I texted you when Chris was talking about that. I was like, are we really breaking down Luke Maile's approach to pitching right now and acting like he's purposefully throwing balls at the top of the zone to move hitters' eyes? Like, I realize he's a catcher, so those are things that he probably does think about on like a day-to-day basis as part of his catching responsibilities. But like, the guy's up there throwing 60 something miles an hour. Let's not act like this is anything more than just a dude swinging through lobs up there. Like, it was funny, inadvertently comedic for sure.
Yeah. Big news of the day: Jeimer Candelario to the IL with a left. What do they call it? A giant toe? Is that what they officially call it?
Yeah, left great toe.
Great toe. My apologies. Great toe.
Yeah. Do you have a great toe, Nick?
I don't know. I don't know if I do or not.
What is that?
Sounds
is that
like
just
there's
his big toe.
That's what I assume
Okay.
it is. I think that's the PR term for it.
Okay.
I'm assuming this probably ends his season. I mean, a broken toe on August 20th, or it's pretty close to it. Pretty disappointing season for Jeimer Candelario. The only thing I would say is it's kind of almost good there is some sort of injury, that there's some sort of reasoning why he struggled so bad in the second half. I mean, he was absolutely just atrocious in the second half. You have to hope that it was the injuries, because we did see him at times look really, really good, and it did kind of line up when he had that strain or something. He had so many like small injuries this year. I don't know. You hope that it was the injuries and he can, bounce back next year. He did have 1 year earlier in his career where he was atrocious, and then the next couple years bounced back and was great. Any thoughts on Candelario? I'm excited to have some other guys play, though, to be honest.
Well, I think you're excited about some other guys getting an opportunity. I'm also interested in seeing what a healthy Jeimer Candelario looks like. And I think we're kidding ourselves if we think that he's been healthy for the last 3 months. And, the one interesting piece to me is that it was reported by Charlie, at least Goldsmith, that he broke his toe in that rain delay, or right before that rain delay, and maybe it could have been avoided. Now, on the Reds' behalf, you're probably not that upset that it happened, because it gives you an easy decision. But, it's one of those things where it's probably too late now, but if you had a healthy Jeimer Candelario and you had the Candelario that you had in May and June, this team is potentially very different, right? But instead, you get a Jeimer Candelario who can't move and therefore can't play defense. You get a Jeimer Candelario who obviously was not swinging the bat to his full potential. And it just, at this point, it felt like the Ahmad Rosario claim felt like it was a replacement for Candelario, whether Candelario was going to be the move or not. It just felt like, okay, here's another non-defensive player who at least has shown the ability this year to have some success offensively. So maybe this was the plan anyway. Maybe it wasn't, but it certainly lines up in terms of filling the role that Candelario, at least you hoped, would have this year.
Yeah, he was dealing with tendonitis before. So again, I don't, he had something else though earlier in the year as well. There's been a bunch of like just small nagging injuries with him this year, and I don't know. You have to.
And you might remember. I feel like I remember that they reported that the doctor said it was one of those injuries that's just going to be there. The tendonitis, like, sure, rest and ice and all those things might make it less severe, but it doesn't sound like that's something that's just going to go away. So one of the things that might be interesting is, okay, he's on the IL now with this toe. That's going to set him out for a while. Do you go in and do a scope on the knee to try and clean it out, shut him down for the year, and hope that he's healthy for 2025 with a knee that can stand longer than a 60-game series or a season for him? That might be an option for them. I don't know enough about the injury, enough about everything else to make that decision and to kind of have an input on it. But maybe this gives you that opportunity to address the knee and allow him a full rehab for spring training.
Well, I mean, certainly I don't think going to be playing third base. I would assume that will help a little bit with that. I mean, that's a more, difficult position just, in terms of your game preparation every day. So that would help him stay healthier, hopefully. I don't know. But yeah, tough season. Hope he gets back next year, but I also am kind of honestly happy to get some other guys some playing time. Give some other guys some looks.
It'll just be interesting to see who they give looks to. If the players that they're giving looks to is Ahmad Rosario, then I don't know if that's really beneficial long term, obviously. Will they turn to somebody else or give somebody else an opportunity? I don't know. I mean, like I said before, Ahmed Rosario feels like a type of player that you hoped that Candelario would be. He's hitting 305 on the year, 23 extra base hits. What's interesting, Nick, and maybe you and Trace talked about this already, his peripherals are not good this year. Like, it'll be very interesting to see how that carries over. Now, playing a GABP, you don't necessarily have to hit the ball hard all the time to get it out and to have an impact, but hard hit ball, 27th percentile, barrel, 15th percentile, exit velo, 13th percentile, like, not great. Chases a lot, doesn't walk. We'll see. Only time will tell.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing Rosario is probably mostly only going to play against left-handed pitching, unless he gets really hot or something like that. I think the Reds probably would honestly rather get more looks out of Santiago Espinal. I think they probably feel like he sort of deserves more playing time based on kind of what he's done all year and the fact that they still have control of him next year. But yeah, I mean, with Candelario out, I mean, there's plenty of there's plenty of options for him to play against left-handed pitching. And while he has I think overperformed certainly this year, he's hit left-handed pitching really well throughout his career. So like he certainly would be a help to this team for whatever they're playing for against left-handed pitching. It's just you don't really want him out in the field because he's terrible.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, we'll talk a little bit more about Noelvi Marte in just a second. But before we get to that, we want to remind you, as always, that we are presented by the Game Time app. Reds will be back in town soon, and obviously you're going to want to get down to the ballpark after a game like tonight and see the boys in action. The Game Time app is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, and what's great is that makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in pricing, views from your seat, and the lowest price guaranteed, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. They have all-in pricing. You can toggle this feature that shows you the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. The lowest price guaranteed, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code CINCY, that's CINCY, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code CINCY, CINCY, for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. And we also remind you that you can call or text 988 at any time at all, day or night. The 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is a place to get support for anything related to mental health. Whether in an immediate crisis, simply wanting to find out how to connect with care, or anything in between, it's a 100% confidential, secure, and anonymous way to reach out for help when you don't know where else to turn. To connect, call or text 988 or visit mantherapy.org to get help. It's okay not to be okay.
Nick, I'm sorry. I can't help but laugh. We just got done talking about how starting pitching has turned into, a potential sour point of this ball club. And the Milwaukee Brewers have the audacity to tweet out, quote, "What a pickup. Frankie Montas tonight, 7 innings, 1 hit, no earned runs, 3 strikeouts, 1 walk against the Cardinals." What a pickup.
Yeah. And then
What
Joey
are you gonna
Weimer's 3 for like 40 right now.
Listen, when it's not your year, Nick, it's just not your year.
Yeah.
And this feels like it's not our year.
Well, I mean, the one positive is it forced them to put Nick Martinez in the rotation, and like he would have eventually got to the rotation after like Hunter Green's injury. But I think him getting to the rotation is a good thing for this team. I think there definitely needs to be an urgency, I think, to keep Nick Martinez around. I think if it's a raise or whatnot, I mean, I think he's so valuable to this particular Reds team with where the Reds are at. So again, it is what it is. Frankie Montas isn't gonna change the trajectory of this season, no matter how well he pitches in Milwaukee.
Shout out to our friend Bryce Spalding for this one, though. Frankie owns the Cardinals. 3 of his 6 quality starts this season have been against St. Louis.
Yeah.
Anyway, you want to talk about Noelvi Marte? He had 2 hits tonight.
I do. And I mean, look, what Noelvi Marte does the rest of the year matters quite a bit. So it was good to see that first at bat. Really good piece of hitting with a couple runners on base after Barrios had walked a couple guys. It was a 1-0 game at that point, so this wasn't a one of these hits late in the game where was completely meaningless. So just good to see. I mean, I think Marte's looked a lot better defensively. I know he did make an error today, but I think his defense has looked a lot better. And with where the Reds are at right now, I mean, you got to keep running this guy out every day. You got to see what he's got. You got to kind of see what he's made of and see if he's a guy that you really feel comfortable about being a big part of your plans in 2025. It doesn't matter what he does in terms of your plans beyond 2025 the rest of the year, but for next year, what he does right now, I think really does matter in terms of, what you need to do this offseason.
Well, the biggest thing for Noelvi Marte over the course of the rest of this year is to show the Reds in this club that he can be the Noelvi Marte that we saw last year. And that's honestly just through consistent improvement. I don't think he has to go on some sort of 16-game hitting streak like he ended last year on, or hit 10 home runs in the last 30 games or anything like that. But he does have to show consistent improvement. And I think the biggest thing is that starts with his approach at the plate. And like you said, I thought that he had a couple good at bats today. The one thing I'll say, like, neither one of his base hits were hard hits, right? So like the 2 singles that he had, 75.5 off the bat and 61.9 off the bat, like neither one of them were hard hit. He was jammed on one. He broke his bat off the end on another one. But as we've seen before, like sometimes that's all it takes to get a player kind of off the snide. And so Noelvi Marte's got to be focused on just consistent improving. He was stepping in the bucket, offensively, stepping out, reaching for balls on the outside of the plate. I saw an interesting graph a couple of days ago where like he had faced 170 pitches down and out of the zone. In no other zone he had faced more than like 55 or something like that. So like pitchers knew where to attack him and he wasn't adjusting. And so now hopefully he is adjusting. And that's ultimately what we as fans need to be looking for out of Noelvi Marte, is consistent adjustments and getting comfortable back at the plate, so that when we do get into 2025 and he has a full spring training again, that hopefully he'll be the Noelvi Marte that we are hoping to see this year.
Yep, absolutely. Some other interesting news today. Rhett Lauder getting promoted to AAA. Connor Phillips also returning to AAA. And then Nestor Laurent going to Dayton. Really love that move. We'll talk about all three of those. We'll start off with Rhett Lauder. He's been absolutely dominant. His last 5 starts, a .62 ERA, 27 strikeouts, 7 walks, and 29 innings. So great to see with Rhett Lauder, getting one step closer to the big leagues. And look, I think if Rhett Lauder goes to Louisville and pitches well a couple times, I don't think I'd put it past the Reds to bring him up, give him a start or two in the big leagues this year, kind of to jumpstart him for next year. Now, obviously, if he goes to Louisville and struggles, that's where he's going to finish his 2024 season. But yeah, this is an exciting move. It's Rhett Lauder getting back on track is one of the bigger developments as the season's gone on in this organization, because he did struggle there for a while, but he looks like the top 10 draft pick that he was.
Yeah, absolutely. He's the Reds' number 2 prospect overall. His last outing on Thursday, 7 innings, 4 hits, 1 run, 8 strikeouts on only 81 pitches. 60 of them were strikes. The comment that I read in his kind of his scouting report that I thought was interesting was that amongst MLB Pipeline's executive poll in 2024, Rhett Lauder received the most votes for, quote, best pitchability, right? So like Rhett Lauder knows how to pitch. And that's something that we've seen some of our younger pitching prospects struggle with as they get to the major league, is control and command and just knowing how to attack a major league hitter. And so I'm excited to see him against AAA talent. To your point, I don't know if I'm ready to see him in the majors. And I say that for really just for one reason, is that ultimately the question becomes, do you see him in your starting rotation to start 2025? And I don't believe in making that decision based on a small handful of starts in 2024. And so you either have to know that he's going to be in your starting rotation in 2025 and bring him up and get him comfortable now. Or if you still feel like he has something to prove, you just let him be in AAA for the rest of the season, get more experience against potentially major league quality talent. And then in spring training, just make sure you're giving him opportunities against more major league talent and then see where he falls. I just hesitate to give him that promotion this year unless you feel confidently that he is part of your rotation in 2025.
I don't think if he came up and threw a no-hitter that he should be in the plan A for the 2025 rotation. I think he should be the plan B to start the season. But as we see, sometimes you have to go to the plan B. Sometimes you have to go to the plan X, as the Reds did this year with certain decisions, at least offensively. So, again, it'll be interesting to see what he does. I see the benefit to both, but I think if he pitches well, I don't really mind giving him a start. Now, the only thing, I'm not worried about the service time at all, because I think worrying about service time for pitchers is usually a fool's, errand to do, just because of how pitchers develop and stuff. Position players at the top of them, I think you do have to be somewhat mindful of that, as stupid as it is.
Well, especially for someone that you expect to compete for a top end of rotation job in the near future, right? It's one thing if you think this guy's a depth piece, and then you got to worry about service time and manipulating options and those things. But in this scenario, if Rhett Lauder, which we all think that he's eventually destined for the top of this rotation to be paired with Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo, you can't be worrying about that stuff. Once he gets up here, you're not going to be sending him up and down multiple times and worried about service time.
Yeah, the only thing that I would maybe be a tiny bit worried about with calling up there would just be using an option. Now, I hope to God that you don't need that third option for Rhett Lauder, that you
Right.
use an option this year, you use an option next year. You don't need an option in 2026, but you never know. So that's the only that's probably the biggest negative towards it. But if you really believe in Rhett Lauder, then again, I personally wouldn't see a reason against calling him up, but we'll see. Connor Phillips returning to AAA, officially put on the roster. Now, I haven't heard that he's officially starting or anything, but the fact that he's back with Louisville, officially on the roster, seems like a good indication that he will. Connor Phillips' last pitch on June 19th for Louisville. He had a 10.11 ERA in 14 starts. He got sent out to Arizona and was on the ACL Reds roster. Never pitched in a single game, but was never placed on the IL. Now, in fairness, I don't really think you're worried about roster spots in the Arizona Complex League. So there could be an injury and they just never actually put him on the IL because you don't really have to. It doesn't really matter, I don't think. But I'm assuming that he was healthy and they just decided not to pitch him in any games. They sent him out there. They probably had him back on the backfields taking live batting practice. They might have some simulated games. They don't play every day in the Arizona Complex League, so I think they do some additional, games and things like that aren't a part of the official stats. And maybe the Reds just didn't want any official stats on Connor Phillips. They wanted him just to be able and not like just to kind of clear his head, so he knows like what I do is not going in a record book. I'd be fascinated to know what exactly happened with Connor Phillips over the last 2 months. But again, I mean, he's a guy that you certainly don't want to give up on as a 23-year-old pitcher that was highly thought of coming into this year. But when you have a year as bad as he's had at this point, it's going to take quite a bit of a turnaround for you to feel confident in him being a piece of your future again.
Well, and ultimately that's why you send him to Arizona, is he doesn't have to worry about pitching in games. He can just focus on what is it like to be a major league pitcher, and you can work on what is my routine, not only on the day that I am starting, but on the days that I'm not starting. He can work one-on-one with pitching coaches using all the technology that they have in Arizona to figure out, okay, how do I maximize my location and my spin rate and all of these other things that ultimately are going to contribute to his success at the next level. When we saw him in the majors last year, I mean, command was an issue, and we saw it with Spiers tonight, that ultimately, if you don't have command, it doesn't matter how good your stuff is, like major league hitters are going to hit you. So, I liked the move of sending him to Arizona to just kind of focus on himself, not have to worry about travel, not have to worry about all of those things, and just get in a groove and figure out what is his plan going to be on how to be a professional pitcher. And so it'll be interesting to see what they use him, how they use him over the rest of this year. Like you said, I can't imagine that they put him back on the roster just to let him sit. So I expect to see him in a game, whether that's starting out of the bullpen in limited opportunities or otherwise, we'll see. But like you said, nonetheless, a good sign that they felt comfortable enough to put him back on the AAA roster.
Yeah, I mean, I thought there was a possibility that he was just going to end the year in Arizona and they were going to say, we'll try again next year. So I think that's good. I would be a little deflated if they put him as a reliever. Like, I kind of hope that they feel confident enough to put him back as a starter, give him however many starts you can get the rest of the season, and kind of see where you can go from there. But
the only thing I would say to that is that we've seen plenty of pitchers who are projected to be starters who technically come out of the bullpen in the minor leagues. And so whether it's out of the bullpen or starting, I think the major focus we should have is on the number of innings that he's pitching. And, if he's coming in and only doing 1 or 2 innings, maybe we have a concern. But if he's coming in and getting 3, 4 plus innings, then I think that kind of gives us a little bit of an indication of his plans. So would be nice to see him actually starting games, though, because again, if the issue was his routine, then that is certainly something that can be affected if he's not starting. But at the same time, you have a bevy of arms down at AAA, so we'll see how they use them.
All right, and then the last piece of news, Nestor Laurent to Dayton. That's a really cool move. He's had an incredible season. Was not really a guy that was on anyone's radar, but has been dominant for the Tortugas. The Tortugas they're also in a playoff race, but Dayton's also in a playoff race as well. I think it means a little bit more to Dayton, especially just because Dayton packs the ballpark a lot more than like Daytona does. So I think if they're in a playoff race, I think it's going to be a pretty cool vibes. I think also Nestor Laurent might be a pitcher that can help that Dayton team that has a lot of the Reds' future on it right now. And I do think there's some value to that team making the playoffs. You know, I know there's a lot of people. I didn't used to think this, but a lot of people that I really respect, their baseball opinions have talked about how meaningful it is to win in the minor leagues and have some success and to build that kind of culture. So I think that would be really good for Dayton, and we'll talk about them in a minute. But Nestor Laurent, really cool story, and I'm excited to get to see him in Dayton with the great Tom Nichols on the call.
Look, it's so deserved, and I think that's the biggest thing that we have to focus on is Nestor Laurent's numbers in Daytona were obscene. I mean, 22 appearances, including 7 starts, going back to that comment that I made before, where whether you see him as a starter or not, sometimes they kind of fluctuate. So 22 appearances, 7 starts, 87 and 2/3 innings, 1.44 ERA. He only gave up 14 earned runs in those 22 appearances. Batters hitting 180 against him this year, 0.87 whip. He only gave up more than 2 runs once the entire season, and threw less than 3 innings only once in the 22 games. Twice, including today, he was named the Florida State League Pitcher of the Week as well. So shout out to Nestor Laurent. Big day for him, promotion and Florida State League Pitcher of the Week.
Very well deserved for sure. All right. Reds MILB. We'll start off with Louisville. They fall 3-1 to Gwinnett. The Bats have now lost 5 of 6 now, 57 and 62 on the year. Blake Dunn, though, 2 for 4, also stole a bag, his 19th of the year. Dunn playing much better of late, a guy that I think probably will get a chance to get it this year, especially if he keeps this up. So that's good to see. Resigns 1 for 4. Joey Weimer, his struggles continue. 0 for 3, only has 3 hits since joining the Reds organization. Davis Wenzel 0 for 4, and then Connor Overton. Really good to see for him. 3 shutout innings, 3 strikeouts, just 1 walk. He had been really struggling since he got sent to Louisville. Chattanooga, they're currently losing 2-1 to Mississippi in the top of the 9th. Tyler Callahan staying red hot. He is 2 for 4 in that one. So that's good to see. Have more on that, of course, on Reds MILB on the Chatterbox Reds podcast tomorrow. Dayton Dragons, they won 4-1 over the Colonels tonight. Dragons now 65 and 50 on the season. They're right in the middle of a playoff race. They now have a 2.5 game lead over West Michigan. West Michigan had been on fire, but Dayton's finally getting a little bit of separation. So that is, really cool to see, hoping for good things for that. Leo Balcazar, 2 hits. He's 2 for 3. Hector Rodriguez is 1 for 4. Cam Collier 0 for 2. He has a big on base. He had a big on base streak. Don't remember the exact number, but it looks like that came to an end tonight. Daytona, they whipped up on Jupiter 12-1. And why is that important? Well, Jupiter's the team that is chasing them for a playoff spot. So they increased their lead to a 1.5 over Jupiter. Yerlin Confidant, great night for him. He was 2 for 3. Sammy Stafora, 2 for 5. Ricardo Cabrera, 2 for 5 as well. So some good stuff there. And then Adam Serwanowski, talented lefty, 4 innings of 1-run ball, 6 strikeouts, 2 walks. So good to see. And then out in the Dominican Summer League, the last day of the season, sounds like the DSL Reds came up a game short of the playoffs, but they finished the year 37 and 18. So a good year for sure for the DSL Reds. That's where the majority of the talent is right now among the two teams. But they finish off with a 7-1 win over the DSL Athletics. Adolfo Sanchez 1 for 3 with a double. Sanchez is the top prospect down there, ranked number 25 overall. Did have a 356 on base percentage, but just hit 216, had 2 homers and 11 stolen bases. He is only 17 years old. Jervin Moriallo, the Reds catching prospect, did not play in the finale, but had a great, probably the best year of any of the top prospects down there. 442 on base percentage, had 2 home runs and an 889 OPS. And then Yako Soriano, he finishes his season 1 for 5, did steal a bag. The DSL Rojos, they finished their season as well. They finished 25-30. They fall 7-3 to the DSL Brewers. Nabio Mariano, probably the most disappointing player down there. He was the second highest prospect. He went 0 for 4 in the finale. Hit just a $188. Only a .242 slugging percentage this season, but he is only 17 years old as well. All right, Reds back at it tomorrow, Craig. Find a way to get a series win in Toronto. That would be great. Reds have never done that before, so they're going for that. They'll be going up against Yuriel Rodriguez, 3.93 ERA, 4.42 FIP. Cuban pitcher who actually pitched in Japan from 2020 to 2022. Pitched really well there and signed a 5-year, $32 million contract with the Blue Jays prior to this year. Made his big league debut on April 13th. Last time out, gave up 4 runs in 5 innings to the Cubs. He's a guy that throws 5 different pitches, 4-seamer, slider, curveball, split finger, and sinker. His fastball average is 94 miles per hour. Obviously, he's never faced the Reds. Has faced Ty France, who is 0 for 2. And then for the Reds, Nick Martinez, 1.19 ERA and 2.40 FIP over his last 9 games, 29 strikeouts, and 1 walk in his last 30 and a third innings pitched. He's, in fact, the only pitcher in Major League Baseball who's walked less than 1 batter per 9 innings that has 90-plus innings pitched. Martinez, a career 4.91 ERA against the Blue Jays, but he's only thrown 1 inning against them since 2017. That was last year. He threw a scoreless inning at the Rogers Center. Active Jays are 5 for 25. George Springer's 5 for 15 with a homer. Varsho's 0 for 5, and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is 0 for 1. So, Craig, any final thoughts on this matchup tomorrow? Look, if you find a way to win a series, I mean, you're certainly not going to apologize for that.
No, not going to apologize for that. And Rodriguez, quite frankly, feels like the type of pitcher that the Reds typically succeed against. Throws 4 pitches, but relies a lot on his fastball. 44% of the time he's throwing that. So combo that with a 26% slider. Feels like a type of pitcher that the Reds typically handle a little bit better than some of those crafty guys that throw 6 or 7 pitches all 10 to 15% of the time. Look, Nick Martinez has been on fire. Even his last start where he picked up the loss against Kansas City was a quality start, 6 innings, only 30 runs. Hasn't walked a batter in 24 straight innings. And so we talk about control, we talk about command. Nick Martinez for sure has that under control right now. Yeah, excited to see it. Excited to hopefully pick up a series win. And we'll see what happens next.
3rd time's the charm. They moved on me. Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, that's all I got. Can't believe there's so many of you watching talking Reds baseball. But we appreciate it as always. If you could like the stream on your way out,
don't leave yet.
Oh, you got something else? Oh, I forgot. I skipped.
Come on, Nick. You skipped right over it on the rundown. I thought maybe he's just gonna leave it for after up next. Maybe. Nope, just completely ignoring it.
I teased it at the beginning. Craig, what is going on?
Yeah, excited to officially announce the return of Chatterbox Bengals. Jacob Tissett, Reed Mouse, and myself will be taking the lead on that. You'll see me regularly on Chatterbox Bengals this season. Plan is, get this, we'll be live every game, all game, to have live reaction with you. Jacob and I will be live every single game for our live reaction. Then we'll be live, obviously, afterwards for our post-game reaction. And twice throughout the week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, will be live as well. Tuesdays, we'll recap the previous week's game. Thursday, we'll take a look ahead at the upcoming matchup. Obviously, some of that might be dependent on schedule for the week. Obviously, the week that we play on Thursday night, the Bengals play on Thursday night. We won't be doing a Thursday night show that week in that realm, but be sure to tune in. As always, we appreciate the chat. We love the chat. Really makes what we do fun and exciting. So looking forward to having you all along the ride with us and excited to be part of kind of leading the future of Chatterbox Bengals. I know Reed had a chance to be involved last year as a fill-in. I know he's really excited to be part of it. Jacob, obviously, as you've seen on Off the Bench and otherwise, extremely knowledgeable when it comes to football in the Cincinnati Bengals. So really excited about what we're going to be able to bring in our coverage, and look forward to Thursday night for our debut stream. Obviously, encourage you to check out Chatterbox Reds live after the Reds game. And then as soon as Nick and Trace wrap up, head on over, hang out with Jacob and I as we watch the rest of the Colts preseason game. And we will stay live after the game as well to give our immediate reaction.
Yeah, and you'll be auto-directed there. So if you're watching Chatterbox Reds, we'll direct you right there. Hopefully the Reds have the shortest game of the year. We can do a quick show and send you on your way to Chatterbox Bengals.
Yep.
But if the Reds get smoked, you know what? You have my blessing. You can just watch Chatterbox Bengals, listen to the Chatterbox Reds podcast in the morning. You're excused. You're excused. But
the Reds game is at 6:40 p.m. Eastern. The Bengals game doesn't start till 8 p.m. Eastern. So watch the Reds game, see how things are going. If they're winning, keep watching it. Maybe you have 2 screens in your man cave where you can be watching
one on closed
both
caption.
games. Yep. And
Do we have closed captioning?
I'm sure. Yeah. Sure. I don't know. Look, I've got it up. Surely I can figure out settings. No, we don't have to. No, not live.
I think it takes a while for it to go through, and it's not pretty either when it does go through. Like, it is way off.
Yeah.
It's funny, but yeah.
Nonetheless, we'll be live after Chatterbox Reds. If you want to tune in, we would certainly appreciate it. And looking forward to it, Nick.
Absolutely. Yeah. But be sure to support these guys. I know they're going to put a lot of hard work into this. It's hard to grow a new show. So spread the word. Tell a friend. If you're at the Bengals game, put on Chatterbox Bengals on your phone. Let the people around you see, and maybe we can get some energy going. Excited for you guys on that. I think it's going to be an awesome project this year, and excited to see. I know it's going to grow for sure. So cool stuff. All right. I was asked about Sheng and Lin, and I'm obviously always going to respond to someone who asks about Sheng and Lin. Mr. One asked, the ACL Reds season is over. They still do some like instructional stuff, so I believe he's still at the complex. But Sheng and Lin had a magnificent season at 18 years old. Hit 308, 418 on base percentage. He's climbing up the Reds prospect rankings. I'm a Sheng and Lin stan. I am. He's going to be here sooner than you know. And when he does, you better believe it is going to be the biggest Chatterbox event the Reds have ever seen. So
where did the obsession with Sheng and Lin come from? Was it when you were in Arizona for spring training? Did you see him and fall in love, or what happened there, Nick?
Well, I like this story because he has a chance to be the greatest player ever from Taiwan. So I think that's pretty cool. There's only one player that's played in the big leagues and has had mild success. So that I thought was really cool. And then when we get to the spring training, I obviously wanted to try to get some content on Sheng and Lin because there's nothing out there. There's literally nothing. Search on YouTube. The Chatterbox video is about it. And unfortunately, my cohorts, they just did not see the vision that I had for that project and gave me a lot of shit about it. So that made me an even bigger fan because I tell you what, you want to know one thing about Nick Kirby? When someone shits on someone, I want to bring them back. So now I'm even more all in on Sheng and Lin because of my cohorts, making fun a little bit of me wanting to get some Sheng and Lin content. Trying to expand Chatterbox across the pond, trying to Chatterbox global. And when Sheng and Lin wins the MVP, they're going to look pretty silly. So
there you go.
The more
Good
you
to know.
Market's not a kid show at 10:24. All right. Well, I'm done. I got work to do. Got some bets to see if I win tonight. So appreciate you as always. Like the stream. Check out the podcast. Spread the word. Love y'all. Good night. Get them tomorrow.